Hello, welcome to week 12. I'll be discussing Twilight chapters 1 through 4, and my name is Olivia Holtman. So first things first, we're going to go through chapter by chapter. We start with Bella transitioning from sunny Phoenix, Arizona to dreary Forks, Michigan, or not Michigan, Washington. And so this represents mom and dad in a sense. So mom is the comfort. That's what she's used to. That's who she stayed with the longest. And this mysterious heir is like her father in a sense, where she hasn't spent a lot of time with her dad. There's an awkward relationship between the two. And there's some air that needs to be cleared as their relationship develops. Her dad surprises her with a new truck, which at first she was very apprehensive, like, is this truck actually going to be good? But she ends up really liking the truck, and now she has a sort of independence in this town where she doesn't know where she's going to fit in yet. And so she has at least one thing where she can go and do the things that she needs to do. In this first chapter, we also have her starting her very first day of public high school, and she meets some friends. How nice. They're very attracted to her at first. They want to get to know her. The new girl is super intriguing to them. Some of them have little crushes on her. And so we have these people naturally drawn to her, which counteract a lot of the negative self-talk that we've had so far. That self-talk being with her describing herself as meek and simple, because all of this is from her perspective. And then her also calling normal activities or emotions very humiliating for her. So she has this negative self-talk, negative self-image in that sense. So she goes about her day. They are also the intel that she has for her environment. She is able to talk to them about like what's weird and what's normal. And a part of that conversation is the Cullen family. The Cullen family consists of a wide range of people who are technically siblings, adopted wise, but it's kind of weird and gray area in a sense. And she doesn't really have any direct contact with them or intel about them until biology, where she meets Mr. Edward Cullen, who is glaring at her the entire time. He looks like he's in pain, and it's just not a fun situation for anyone involved. She goes about her day, talks to some of her friends, like, was this normal? And they were like, no, he looked really weird. What happened? And she was like, I don't know. And then at the end of the day, she has to go turn in her paperwork at the office, where she sees Edward trying to get out of the biology class that they're in together. When he sees her, he storms out. She's fighting back tears and says that she's fine to the receptionist, even though she has these big emotions inside of her. So we see this instance of her emotions being controlled in a sense, and her not showing her true self. We go to the next chapter. We see Mr. Edward Cullen. Oh wait, no, we don't. He's gone for an entire week. But she is able to talk to her dad about how she's been doing at school. She tells him that she's made a few friends, that they've bonded, and then she brings up the Cullens, and it's like, what have you heard? Normally her father is very like unsure of what he's saying, but this is one of the instances where he's very strong and very like speech-like about how the Cullens are good people. They've done a lot for the town. The kids never cause trouble, and so he has a very high regard for this family. And so now we have these counteracting views. And then at school, after that week is up, Edward's back, fun times, they're in biology together. And he actually introduces himself and doesn't sit there writhing in pain. And so they're able to talk, and she's a little apprehensive at first, as anybody would. But during this project, she has a few observations that she makes. One is that he's very cold. They touch hands, and he was very like ice cold. The next is that they had like a spark between them when they touched. And the third is that his eyes keep changing color. All right, next things next. We wake up to a snowy scene, and it's time to go to school. So Bella gets in her truck and drives to school, but then chaos ensues as a van comes catapulting towards her. She is now out of her car, but a van comes catapulting towards her out of control, and she sees Edward across the parking lot, but all of a sudden he's next to her, stopping the car with his hands. And so some observations that she made was that he's super fast, and that he left imprints on the car and is super strong to come out of that completely unharmed. She and Tyler who was driving the car, are both treated at the hospital by Dr. Cullen, which is Edward's dad. And after that, Edward talks to her and basically gaslights her into believing that he was right next to her the whole time. She does not believe it one bit. And that was the first night she dreamt of Mr. Edward Cullen, her savior. But again, he did gaslight her, which is not a good thing. Next chapter, we have a lot of people asking Bella to go to the dance with them. And so she turns him down, basically. She was like, but in order to make sure that they weren't uncomfortable or they weren't sad, or the fact that she didn't really want to go with them, she just tried not to make it their fault. She was like, I'm going out of town, even though she really had no plans to go to Seattle. She was like, I'm going to go to Seattle, so I won't be there for the dance. And is like, you should ask this person. I think you guys would have a lot of fun. So she, again, is putting other people's emotions and needs before her own. Edward overhears this and is like, hey, I'll take you to Seattle because I don't really trust you driving or your car right now. So we're going to go together. And that is the invitation that is referenced at the beginning of the chapter, where she is now invited by Edward Cullen, even though previously he was like, we can't be friends. We can't. It's too dangerous. He is just like, it's too hard. I need to be friends with you. I need to hang out with you. I need to protect you in a sense. So yeah, some themes on Bella's portrayal is a lack of self-love that leads to others' happiness being put before her own. And then strong thoughts internally, but she doesn't always express those thoughts. She's very much observing in that sense. And so the argument that I believe is trying to be made is this example of Bella's femininity is selflessness and putting other people's happiness before your own, while observing and making sure, like, am I going to be decent in this environment? How am I going to be put into this environment? So yeah, the comparison that I want to make is to Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games. These two are some of my favorite characters from growing up. I want to first talk about their selflessness, with Bella putting her mother's happiness above her own. Now that her mother is newly married, she is voluntarily moving to a place that she dislikes for other people's comfort. And Katniss has selflessness in volunteering in place of her sister for the Hunger Games, which is the Deadly Games. And I think she would have willingly died for Rue, which is somebody who was around Prim's age, also in the Hunger Game, and was an ally of Katniss for a while. Internal thoughts of both of these characters are very loud and strong. Even if they're not always expressed, they are very loud and strong. For example, Bella in this new environment is heavily an observer and doesn't always speak her mind, but does make note of it. Katniss is similar, where she is quiet but brash. She'll say something for benefit, but she tries to, observe and intake information for her own strategic benefit. So yeah, those are my comparisons of how this argument of how Bella is being portrayed as a selfless individual in remarks to femininity applies to Katniss as well. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.